What if Yoda was in the Jedi Temple during Order 66? This is a scenario I've wanted to explore for a while, and I had a lot of fun writing it, so I hope you enjoy. I think it takes some good turns, I think it ends well, but hey, let me know what you think. Let me know what you'd do differently, let me know what you think of this whole thing, but thanks for watching, everybody. I'm super excited to get into this one. Yeah, thanks for sticking around, thanks for 4,000 subscribers. Super cool. Alright, here we go. Grandmaster Yoda sat atop a platform in the trees of Kashyyyk, watching as the clones and the separatists battled in what would be one of the waning battles of the Clone Wars. Yoda watched, knowing there was a hidden darkness approaching. He knew that Obi-Wan was engaging Grievous, knew that Anakin was spying on the Chancellor, while battling his own demons. The fate of the Jedi Order and the fate of the Sith would be determined in the coming days. As Yoda watched the battle below, he drifted off into a bit of a meditative state, and for the first time in what felt like forever, Yoda allowed his mind to see into the future. And as Yoda drifted off, he saw war, clones fighting droids, then clones fighting a person with a saber, but then he saw Anakin leading a group of clones, the Jedi Temple in all its glory, then the temple on fire, a fiery planet with Obi-Wan crying, fighting a dark blur, red blades. The Force still blinded Yoda, but as he dove into it, he began to see the light overtaken by darkness. Yoda opened his eyes, and he knew he must return to Coruscant. He couldn't make out any of these visions for what they were, but he felt darkness. He didn't want to leave the temple originally to go to Kashyyyk, but him and Master Windu had decided that one of them being absent may invite Darth Sidious to finally reveal himself. Yoda now decided that risk was no longer worth taking, and quickly made his way to his ship, telling Commander Gree that he was now in charge of this battle, as Yoda had other duties to perform. And as Yoda jumped into hyperspace, Anakin learned a terrible truth about Chancellor Palpatine. And these events would play out exactly as we see in Revenge of the Sith. Anakin alerts Mace Windu, the Jedi confront Sidious, and Windu ends up alone in the window, with Anakin forced to choose his path. Anakin cuts down Windu and becomes Darth Vader. The moment Windu started seeing nothing but blue lightning, as he fell forever into the night of Coruscant, Yoda emerged from the blue blur of hyperspace, and he headed to the temple. He had to turn on autopilot as he felt a great disturbance in the Force. Yoda called down to Shakti, one of the leading masters in the temple, and when she answered, Yoda asked her what was going on, if she too felt the dark disturbance. Shakti told Yoda that Mace Windu had gone with Master Tin, Master Kolar, and Master Fisto to arrest the Chancellor, who Anakin had revealed was the Sith Lord that they were looking for. Then, Shakti told Yoda that Anakin had gone after them as well. She tried to stop him, but Anakin was determined and he wasn't a prisoner in the temple. He had gone to help arrest the Chancellor. Yoda told Shakti to alert any masters in the temple that a darkness may be approaching, and he ended the call. Yoda reached out to Windu and Anakin on the Jedi Council frequency, but neither one of them were able to answer. He now had to decide between going to the Chancellor's office or going to the temple, and he quickly decided he may be able to find more clarity in the temple, which he was much closer to, inside the council chambers. He had to trust that Windu, Anakin, and the other three masters would be able to handle the arrest of Palpatine, the Sith Lord. Once inside the temple, Yoda went to the council chambers, and he sat down to meditate, and as he did so, he saw a vision of this room, maybe an hour or so ago. He saw Anakin, and he saw Anakin standing at the window of the council chambers, surrounded by fear, by sadness, by turmoil, surrounded by the darkness. Yoda saw a tear slide down Anakin's cheek, and things began to click for him. Anakin hadn't gone to help arrest the Chancellor. He'd gone to save the Chancellor. No, not the Chancellor, but a Sith Lord. The Sith Lord that had spent years crafting this war, being a father figure to Anakin. Yoda felt the wave of darkness from earlier wash over him, and he remembered his vision on Kashyyyk. Anakin leading a group of clones. If he'd gone to Sidious, gone to the Sith Lord, What could have possibly happened? Yoda knew the temple was in grave danger, and he may only have moments to save it. He jolted to his feet and ran to the elevator. The door closed behind him, and for a moment Yoda remembered the first time Anakin was here as a boy. Then, the many times he'd gone too far as a youngling, his heroics in the Clone Wars that often exceeded what the Jedi Code would allow, and his anger, the anger after being denied the rank of Master. Yoda and the rest of the Jedi had turned a blind eye to the emotions of Skywalker as he aided them in the war, while Palpatine embraced all of Anakin's emotions for decades. As the elevator got closer to the main area of the temple, Yoda began to hear blaster fire. He heard screaming, stomping of boots, sabers deflecting bolts. It was everything Yoda feared. He felt fear in his own heart, and he did everything he could to let it go as best he could as the elevator reached the ground. The door opened to horrors, hundreds of clones spreading out from the entrance of the temple, firing upon Jedi without mercy. Yoda looked on and had to calm himself with the Force as he leapt into battle to save his fellow Jedi. The Jedi that relied on him, the Grand Master of the Order, to save them all. In Palpatine's office, the Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious, was hailed by Commander Gree, the commander on Kashyyyk where Yoda was fighting. Sidious answered the call and asked Gree if Master Yoda had been killed, and that's when Sidious heard words that made him angry. Yoda had departed Kashyyyk before this all went down. Yoda was in the Jedi Temple, Sidious knew. He rounded up his finest royal guards, and together they prepared to head to the temple. Lord Vader was powerful, but Grandmaster Yoda would have been a challenge even for Sidious. He had to get there, save his new apprentice. Back in the temple now, Yoda went from clone to clone. A small green flash was the final thing many members of the 501st ever saw, as Yoda cut them down, doing whatever was needed to save the Jedi Order. Yoda sprinted around, giving himself to the Force. He assisted in getting baby Grogu out of the temple with Master Kelleran Beck, and he rushed back in to find the rest of the Jedi still falling to the overwhelming number of clones. Yoda pushed a squad of 5 into the wall, likely killing them with the impact, and nodded to Master Sindralik, one of the last remaining masters alive in the temple. Yoda went to find one of the other masters, Shaak Ti, who remained in the meditation room, and Anakin Skywalker, now Darth Vader, was making his own way to the meditation room to kill any Jedi who may be hiding there. On his way, he cut down 3 Padawans and a Jedi Knight that he didn't recognize, but who were standing in his way. No one would get in his way. And he made his way through the temple to destroy these Jedi traitors. They had betrayed the Republic, he thought, betrayed the Chancellor, betrayed Padme. His child betrayed him. No one would stop him. He opened the door to find Shaak Ti meditating. This would be easy. Anakin ignited his saber, and right before he could stab it through Shaak Ti, he was blown back out the door and into the main area of the temple. Anakin got to his feet, slowly rising back up, face contorted with anger, with hatred, as he saw the small, green Jedi emerge. Yoda was here. Grand Master Yoda had made it to Shaak Ti just in time, and after pushing Anakin out of the room, Yoda walked to the door with a somber look on his face. He'd seen Anakin kill Jedi after Jedi to get to this room, and years of failure brought them to this climactic moment. The Chosen One versus the Grand Master of the Jedi Order. Failed you, I have, young Skywalker. Allow this to continue. I cannot, Yoda said as he reignited his green lightsaber with Shaak Ti close behind. Anakin stared back at them both, hatred coursing through him as he removed his hood. The Jedi are cowards, traitors who are more afraid of losing their power than protecting the Republic. I will do what I must. And the 2 Jedi charged at each other. Shaak Ti followed close behind, but she had to engage a group of clones who had emerged behind her. Yoda leapt over the top of Anakin, striking for his head as Anakin blocked it and swung around just in time to block a slash at his legs as Yoda landed. The Grand Master was quicker than anyone that Anakin had ever fought before, much different than Dooku, than Ventress, any Jedi he'd sparred with, or killed here today. Yoda leapt again at Anakin, swinging at his chest 3 times while in the air. Anakin parried all 3, slamming Yoda into the ground before taking the offensive. Yoda was not giving it everything he had at this moment, but Yoda did backflip out of the way as Anakin dove into the dark side deeper than ever before, focusing all of his rage on the small Jedi. Yoda backed up as Anakin aggressively took swing after swing at Yoda, pushing him backwards, keeping him off balance. Yoda locked lightsabers with Anakin, locked eyes with Anakin, and began using his right hand to lift a broken statue into the air. As Anakin broke the lightsaber lock and pursued Yoda, he looked up just in time to see the statue being hurled at him. Anakin caught it, staring at Yoda with his wicked eyes, and threw it behind him at Shaak Ti. She was fighting off the final clone trooper, and as she stabbed the final clone between her and the duel between Anakin and Yoda, the statue crushed her against the wall, putting her on the brink of death. Yoda watched in horror as a new squad of troopers ran up and blasted Shaak Ti, defenseless, blasted her countless times, without any mercy. Yoda looked back up at Anakin, a new determination in his eyes. The temple crumbled around them, Jedi fell, clones screamed in victory and in death. Yoda let out a battle cry, jumping at Anakin again. This time, Yoda was clearly on the offensive. Anakin stumbled backwards as Yoda struck at his legs, then his head, then chest. Anakin blocking them all, but beginning to falter. Yoda flipped over Anakin now, and by the time Anakin turned around, Yoda dove under his legs, slicing through his left calf and his right thigh. Anakin fell to his knees, screaming in pain, as Yoda lifted Anakin in the air, beginning to choke him. He had destroyed everything. Yoda could feel Jedi dying across the galaxy, the Order crumbling along with the Temple. Yoda continued to hold him, choking him. And meanwhile, Darth Sidious entered the temple with a new urgency. He blasted young Jedi with lightning as he looked up to see Yoda, holding Lord Vader in the air. Sidious floated up to meet them soon, and Yoda felt the darkness approaching, looking down to see Darth Sidious. Yoda realized that he too was giving into the dark. He let Anakin down, but knew he still had no choice in this fight. With a sad look around, Yoda jumped for Anakin, saber ignited, and stabbed him right through the chest. Yoda landed beside Anakin, watching the light drain from his eyes. From desert slave to Jedi Padawan to Sith apprentice, Anakin was free from it all, dying as he saw Darth Sidious arrive behind them both. Yoda turned around now to face the new Dark Lord of the Sith. The Grand Master was exhausted, and he knew he stood little chance against another Sith. He looked around to see almost every Jedi now killed, and knew what needed to be done. The temple was already crumbling. If he could get it to collapse in upon itself, then the Sith would be dead, along with this era of the Jedi. Yoda called upon all of his remaining energy, calling upon the Force to help him one last time. As Darth Sidious blasted lightning at Yoda, he took off, began leaping from pillar to pillar, slicing them with his saber, the pillars holding up the roof, cutting them down, blasting a force push into them, or letting the lightning from Sidious, as he chased him, crash into the pillars. Yoda bounced from every single point, holding up the enormous room. As clones shot at him, lightning attempted to engulf him, and crashing parts of the ceiling barely missed him. Yoda was so close. The roof began caving in. He just needed to dislodge a few more, and a blaster bolt hit Yoda in the back, sending him crashing to the ground. Dazed, but not over yet, Yoda stood back up, but was immediately engulfed in lightning. Darth Sidious had him, holding him, electrocuting him. Yoda knew this was it. He reached deep into the Force, fully understanding this was his final moment. He called upon Jedi Masters of old. He felt their guidance, along with the guidance from Qui-Gon Jinn. Yoda broke free of the lightning, directed it at the final pillars holding up the temple. Sidious looked around in fear, and he attempted to turn and run to get out of this, but Yoda wouldn't allow it. As Sidious turned around, Yoda grabbed him with the Force, holding them both perfectly in place. The roof caved in, crushing clone forces around them, destroying everything in sight. Sidious held up a chunk of the roof as it nearly destroyed him, and he looked at Yoda, fury and anger surrounding him. Yoda looked around to see the only few remaining Jedi, helping to bring down the entire temple. They knew their sacrifice would save the galaxy from years of darkness. They'd helped the last of the remaining younglings escape, and were now doing what they had to destroy the Sith. Yoda smiled as the largest part of the roof began falling towards him. He was fully at peace, and as the roof caved in, he pulled Sidious to him as the rest of the roof fell, crushing every last clone, every last Jedi making a heroic sacrifice, and crushed both the Grand Master Yoda and Dark Lord of the Sith, Darth Sidious. The Jedi Order had been destroyed, and with it, the Sith. Few Jedi around the galaxy remained, but Obi-Wan Kenobi was the only known survivor from the Jedi Council. After escaping Utapau, he was contacted by Bail Organa that he was not safe to return to Coruscant. The galaxy had no real idea what had happened, as the Jedi Temple had fallen, but the Chancellor had gone missing. The Jedi were soon labeled as treasonous traitors, as a recording surfaced from the Chancellor's office, where Mace Windu and 3 other masters had arrived to kill him. It was assumed that the Chancellor had died or been taken prisoner by the Jedi. Because of that, the clones attacked the temple, but it was assumed that the Chancellor was officially dead in the collapse of the temple. Obi-Wan returned discreetly to see the destruction for himself and to find Padme. Obi-Wan had hoped to find Anakin with Padme, but when he arrived at her quarters, he was met with a wave of sadness. He now fully accepted that Anakin had died in the attack on the temple. He had assumed that Anakin did everything in his power to save the Jedi, to save the younglings, and that his compassion likely led to his demise. Obi-Wan held Padme as they cried for the fallen Jedi and their fallen hero, Anakin. Obi-Wan would not move to rebuild the Jedi right away. The Order had to stay dead, along with the Sith, at least for now, and Padme did not want to be part of this rebuilding system while raising her children, so she moved back to her home planet of Naboo. Obi-Wan found Ahsoka, and together, the two of them went to live in the forest of Naboo as well, hidden away, watching over Anakin's children until the time was right. The Republic would rebuild with a new Chancellor, as Bail Organa won the new election and began to rebuild. The Jedi no longer protected the Republic, but the clone army was put to use to defeat the remaining separatists around the galaxy, and over time, the Republic was back to full strength with clones instead of Jedi protecting them. And now on Naboo, one night Obi-Wan was sleeping. He was suddenly awoken to the sounds of someone sneaking outside of his small home, someone moving carefully, unlike a regular human. Obi-Wan felt a great darkness surrounding this creature. He grabbed his lightsaber. He emerged from the door, igniting it to see who this was, turning to see who this creature was around his home. The creature turned around, slipping and falling, and Obi-Wan immediately recognized who it was. Obi-Wan sighed and said, "Hello, Jar Jar. So lovely to see you again."
Mr. Bustin' with happiness seeing you again.
And that's the end of today's story. I wanted to end it there. Hope you enjoyed. I think it was a lot of fun to write. And yeah, I mean, I really do hope you enjoyed listening to this one. I think it was, I don't know. Let me know. Was that a good way for Sidious to go out? It was either that, or I could have had him just defeat Yoda, or have Yoda somehow escape. But then it just kind of ends up like Revenge of the Sith. I like to take it down different paths. I like the idea of Yoda and the rest of the Jedi accepting their sacrifice and bringing the temple down upon everything, kind of just cementing an end to an era. But I get it if you don't like it. And I had Yoda defeat Anakin in the end. Last fan fiction, I had Anakin and Ahsoka beat Yoda. So this time I switched it up. I think Anakin was very powerful at this moment, but Yoda gets him. So let me know what you thought of that, if you liked it. Thanks for watching, everybody. Truly. Again, thanks for 4,000 subscribers. That's crazy. Yeah. Alright. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.